I'm Laura Stewart. I'm the Director of Product Delivery at HealthJump. Do you want to introduce yourself really quick?
So my name is Nicole Boskoski. I'm the CEO of Elaborate as a health data delivery platform that doctors use to communicate lab results to their patients.
And my name is Joy Rios, and I'm the founder and host of the Hit Like a Girl podcast, and we amplify and celebrate the professional contributions of women in health IT.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to that. So first question, what has been your leadership to date as a female in healthcare IT?
I feel proud as one of the few female CEOs who is also not just leading the business, but has founded the business as a female entrepreneur.
That's awesome. And I started out as a subject matter expert. I've learned a lot about the transition to value-based care and worked my way through consulting in healthcare organizations and how to navigate that. Like literally kind of like doing your taxes, but for data. Like what does the government want as far as data is concerned? Sure. And that kind of took me on a lot of a different path. And just like the transition to value-based care, I feel like there's not really been a map. There's not really been like specific instructions of this is what you're supposed to do next. And so it's offered me an opportunity to take a leadership role in a lot of ways, and even in founding this podcast of just like, you know what, I see a need and I'm going to listen to the market and fill some blanks and some gaps that are in there.
So my question for you guys is, how did you get the courage to even try to go solve that?
I'm like, I'm just going to do this thing and we're going to see where it lands. And I think that's a big part about leadership in general, is like having the confidence and the courage to do something that's unknown and you don't know, basically taking the risk or investing in yourself. It's a hard thing to do.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would replace, to answer your question, I would replace the word courage with planning, because I think exactly what you're saying, Joy. When you take this, it's so funny because I worked with another female founder and CEO, Dr. Robin Burson of Parsley Health. She's a huge inspiration to me and many other female leaders. But I worked with Robin, and for the first few years that we partnered together, she would always ask me, okay, well, like, are you going to start your own business? What do you want to do after Parsley is this major success as it's been? And I was like, I have no idea, but I definitely don't want to start my own business. This is totally insane. It's the thing that you do when you have so much courage and you just believe in yourself to this like almost unrealistic place. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I would tell her that. And then, when it came to founding Elaborate, I realized that there was this problem that I saw in the market. I wanted to buy this product. I wanted to be able to offer this to my clients and my patients, but I couldn't find it. It didn't exist. And so I started mapping it out and taking really small steps of, okay, what would it look like? And my husband, in addition to being an amazing, supportive partner, is also an engineer by trade. So we were like, okay, let's just build a little tool. What does that look like? So it's this small step of having the courage to say, okay, I'm not going to go start my own company, but I'm just going to build a little tool to see what it could look like.
Sure.
And so you make these little tests and these little tests and these little tests, and they suddenly become a thing in and of themselves. So I'd say, for anyone who wants to start their own business or really accomplish anything, you just need a plan. And it's a series of small milestones that bring you to this amazing place, whatever that ending destination is.
And I think that one thing that people get discouraged by is the big picture. And you're like, okay, I'm about to climb this mountain and holy cow, this is a huge mountain. But literally it takes one step at a time. That's how you do it. It's just
100%.
one step at a time.
Like, how am I going to raise venture funding? How am I going to build this thing? How am I going to lead engineers? I'm not an engineer. How am I going to do this? It's like, there are 1,000,001 obstacles in your way because you probably haven't started a business before. If you had, then you would have already answered all these questions. And so it's, okay, how do I just figure out one step at a time how you take these actions?
Sure.
And the other thing too, and I'm sure you see this a lot with your podcast, is you ask people. People are insanely willing to help you just because you're a person who asks. So I reach out to randos all the time on LinkedIn being like, you're an expert in this thing. I want to pick your brain for 30 minutes. Can we get on a call? And it works.
And people love talking about what they're good at. And they love being asked. I continue to say everybody needs a good listening to. And it's really serious. I mean it, because a lot of times if you have good questions and they have the answers, they're going to be more than happy to share it with
100%,
you. Yeah,
100%. And that's even true, especially I'd say more true of female entrepreneurs. I have a bunch of friends who are female entrepreneurs who I have just developed a friendship with them because they've been in your shoes and they know that, there are certain prejudices, there are certain obstacles that as a woman you might face that others won't face. And that's in a sense, very deeply unfair, and we should fix that. But also, it builds this sort of like community around your partners and peers.
What do you think the biggest obstacle you've faced to date is?
As a female leader, I think honestly it's getting over this mental block that I am lesser than as a female CEO. I remember when I was going out to fundraise, with the first 5 or 10 pitches I had with really close friends of mine, again, your friends are your community and your family, I would do the pitch and I'd be like, oh, is it weird that I'm positioning myself as a female founder, a female solo founder? Is that going to hurt me in fundraising? And each of them were like, why are you even bringing that up? Who cares?
They're going to know just by looking at you.
Yeah, they know. Stop bringing it up.
Out.
Stop making it your thing.
Yeah.
And thing that I was like almost hyping up within my own body and made me freeze in weird ways. And once I eliminated that from my internal mental dialogue, it was like I could just be myself. I could be Nicole. And Nicole is really good at building process and companies and products. And that shone through once I got over it myself.
I love that. I mean, what you focus on expands. So it's really important to like focus on the things that you're good at, not the things that you're at. Total mindset.
100%.
When I think about obstacles, I think about change management, and I think of like how difficult it has been for clinicians and around the country to just adjust their habits and their routine and get adjusted to technology and meet all of these demands. And basically being somebody who's over several years been guiding them of here's how you need to use this technology and here's where the report that we need to analyze, and just like getting them in the process of changing their daily routines in a way that configures to what the new world wants, essentially. That's hard. It's an obstacle, and that's just like mindset. It's the same thing. It's a matter of just, it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Here's how you do it.
Absolutely.
Taking it slow, and then just moving forward from there.
What do you guys see as the most promising trend in healthcare IT in 2022?
Learning more about patients, specific to patients, and I think that I will bring that back to the woman conversation, is that when we think about women as patients, we've often been considered smaller versions of men.
Yes.
And not really considered for the
More hysterical smaller versions of men.
Yeah,
Remember
exactly.
that part. That's important.
And so any sort of technology that has an opportunity to learn patients better, we have so many different parts and pieces that matter and that should be, again, measured and taken accounted for.
Yeah.
And if you can use technology to help us do that and then offer better care, I feel like that is a huge opportunity in health tech.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
And one last question with the time we have. What are 2 or 3 other women for that, as our audience is, looking for other strong female voices in healthcare, do you recommend they follow?
Her name is Amy, and I love what she's doing. Free plug for Uva and Amy, and her last name starts with a D, but it's pretty long, and I'm not going to try to say it at the moment.
Yeah.
There's another woman who I'll be interviewing on Thursday, and I'm just really excited about what she's doing because it ties into the value-based care conversation and what we want to measure. Turns out that there's not any clinical quality measures that are meaningful around maternal health and around, we have terrible stats
we're not doing so hot.
on maternity in the US. And so she's actually in the process of creating some clinical quality measures with all of the evidence and everything, like the recommendations and how can we start measuring what matters. And so she works for Sarah Prognostics. Her name is Holly Vernell. And I'm just thrilled to support what she is doing because I think her heart is in the right place. And we need to start measuring and tracking and have better outcomes for moms in this country.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. And it is so, there's the stat that we're, I think, 26th in the world in terms of female outcomes around fertility and maternity care especially. So it'll be interesting to see, that stat has been spoken about for so long, but what is the real so what there? What do I actually do about it?
Exactly.
As a healthcare leader, I have no idea.
That's right. Well, and right now, if somebody wants to track something related to, it's basically postpartum depression. That's the thing that you can, and okay, that's important. That's an important thing to track, but I think that there's other things that we can also be tracking to maybe try preventing. How about on preventing upfront on that side?
That's right. Yeah, so I mean, it's interesting because you see this bigger focus on mental health. So I think Allison Friedlander has done some amazing work and is, a female solo founder who also has been a partner and given me a lot of that free advice that I mentioned earlier. I'm a huge fan of Michelle's at Enzyme. I was one of her first clients back when I was at Parsley when she was starting out and building. And the team at Enzyme's been doing just amazing work. I think a lot of that sort of marketplace enablement is where they're playing as well. Yeah, I think there's lots of like really amazing female leaders. I love seeing how they're coming together and starting to build partnerships with the more, I'd say, conventional larger institutions. For example, Carolyn and Fel over at TIA, and they've built this amazing partnership with the UCL system where now they're starting to roll out OBGYN essentially front doors and like practice ownerships so that you do have, when you go to your OBGYN, a female-centric experience versus one that feels like it's a male reference range. So in general, I would say, and this is true of building a more broader and diverse team, it's not just about having women on the team, it's about having all of the different unique, diverse perspectives that help you build a product that allows it to be felt in a way where, for example, we just finished a bug bash. We just had a major deploy actually this morning. So shout out Team Elaborate, you guys did it. You did an awesome job today. But we had so many people testing the product, and for each person, it wasn't just follow the script and test for these bugs, but it was also tell me how you feel about it, because as a Hispanic man or Black woman, you're going to feel differently, and we found some stuff in the product where it's like, ooh, we probably shouldn't say it that way because it really does not
I am so glad to hear you say that, because one of the things I wanted to talk about is as we're building technology, like we have implicit bias, whether all of us do, and as we're building technology, it's going to reflect those biases whether we like it or not. And so I'm so happy to hear that that's something that's on your mind of, okay, let's look at this from a lot of different angles and from like who it affects.
For sure. Yeah, and as like a female, I'm always thinking about how would I feel about this jam, but it's not just about that one kind of diversity element. There's a broader application here, and I think women are starting to be more represented in healthcare, and there's lots of examples. Go to her website to look at them. Now it's like, how can we also help others who haven't had that same exposure in the past? So I think there's this next wave, and I encourage people to think about in the early days, we did this very early, how do you build a diverse team from day one? Because it makes it so much easier if you build it from day one.
Yeah, I love that. Oh,
I love it
that makes
too.
me so happy.
Yes,
That's great.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Thank you both so much for your time.